Number 3, from enmity to love. If you are a person who constantly has some sort of hatred of life, of people, of religion, sit with a person who's able to change that enmity to love, to something more positive. Number 4, from boastfulness to sincerity. Sometimes we think if we are a man, we need to show some sort of chauvinistic attitude to reassert our manhood. And for some of the youth, even in school, in high school, in order to be a man, quote, you need to portray some sort of character, esteem, ego that has to be inbuilt because you are of the male species. Since when? Since when are we supposed to have such boastful attitudes? When the Prophet himself and all the Imams and the other Prophets before him are one of the most humblest of human beings on earth, the most pious, the most cherished. And number 5, from desires of this world and its affairs to renunciation of worldly affairs, of worldly pleasures. If you have desires for this world, sit with a person who is able to change that to one who can renounce this worldly pleasures. This world is very attractive. Imam Ali ibn Abu Talib salamullah alayhi says that this world is like a snake, soft to the touch but full of venom inside. Look at the analogy that Imam Ali uses. This world is like a snake, soft to the touch but full of poison inside. And the 4th quality to look for in a friend is exactly what I spoke of just now. Az-zuhud. A person who abstains. A person who abstains is one who has taqwa. Taqwa means abstinence. A person who abstains from this world. I'll give you an example. There was a man who read a book on Islamic piety and ethics. And it is said that when he was reading this book, the scholar was from Khurasan, he was from Najaf, and he was reading this book. And this book got to him to such an extent whereby whatever worldly possession he had, he gave it up. Ajib. Whatever worldly possession this man had, he gave it up. Eventually he realized he had nothing with him. Now he's poor, he only has a bed. Even it was difficult for him to get food. So he goes to the author, he travels to Khurasan to find the author of this book. He finds the author of this book and he says, you said in your book that the pathway to Allah is abstinence, like yani stay away from everything. Now I gave everything away, I didn't want any worldly possessions with me. I find myself in a position whereby I cannot do anything now because I have nothing. The author replied, he says, that's not what I meant in the book. What I meant in the book is, it is okay for you to possess these worldly things, but make sure these worldly things do not possess you. That is the difference. Do you remember the man, the old man, who left his walking stick? Meanwhile, the young man who left his mansion behind, and he said, the difference between you and me is that you are worried about a walking stick that you left behind. Meanwhile, I've left a house and I don't even worry about it. A mansion. If Allah has given you the blessings, monetary blessings, use them. You're not supposed to live in a situation where you become a miser. Use them for yourself, for your family. More importantly, use them to spread the message of Islam for tabligh. But at the same time, it is for your benefit. Halal money, halal. I gave a quote yesterday upstairs. The 6th Imam has said that any person who abstains from a morsel, yani one bite of haram food, it is better than 2,000 rakats of prayer. One morsel of haram food, you stay away from it. It is better than 2,000 rakats of prayer. Recite a salawat, please.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
The next thing to look for is loyalty. And this is the last thing to look for in a friend. A person who is loyal. Just like the companions of Imam Hussein. Amongst them, Hazrat Abbas. When his uncle, Hazrat Abbas's uncle, Abbas ibn Ali, was Shimr. He was related to Shimr. Umar ibn Sa'ad was related to Imam al-Hussein. They were family. But when Shimr comes to Abbas ibn Ali on the 9th night of Muharram, or 10th night, he writes, he says to him that, I will give you leniency. Yazid is willing to give you leniency and send you to a place whereby we will not disturb you if you leave Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. At that time, Abbas used his anger and he says, how dare you come to me and give me leniency while I will leave my Mawla alone here. That is never possible. Abbas had a loyalty not only to Imam al-Hussein, but he had the belief, the faith, the loyalty also to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he told Shimr, leave from now before I use my sword against you. Imam al-Hussein comes to him and says, Abbas, leave him alone. Now is not the time to fight. And Shimr walks away. That is loyalty. There is a man by the name of Abu al-Hasan Mazandarani, and it is said that this man had a very good friend by Muhammad Hussein Tabrisani. That was his name, his friend's name. It so happened that in Iraq there was a certain plague that took over, and there were people who were dying, and they knew, some of them, that they might be the next victims of this disease. So what happened was, everybody came to this man by the name of Muhammad Hussein Tabrisani and gave him their possessions. They said to him that, look, if we die, this is our possessions. We want you to then disperse it to other people, give it to other people. Unfortunately, he used to collect the possessions, which was good because he was a trusted person, but he himself fell victim to that disease and he died. He passed away. Now his friend, the author who writes this, Abu al-Hasan Mazandarani, he says that once I went to Karbala, and the night before, I stayed at a place, I fell asleep. He says, when I fell asleep, I saw in my dreams that a man was being punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in such a state, whereby there were chains that were hanging from him. And from these chains, his tongue was in such a situation whereby his tongue was hanging on his chest. And he was shocked. He says, what is happening to this man? And this man was lowered. When he was lowered, he saw the face of this man, and it was his friend. And he asked his friend, he says, what has happened to you? And the chain was pulled up again. It happened 3 times, and then he woke up with a cry. He was shocked, in a state of shock. He told his other friend who was there with him, he says, let's go to the shrine of Imam Hussein, because now they're opening, and pray for him. For years, Hassan Mazandarani was wondering, what happened to him? Why was he giving such punishment? Why was he given such punishment? After 20 years, this man, Mazandarani, goes for tribute to Medina. He goes to the grave of the Prophet and he starts to pray. After he prays, it is in a condition where he is now weak and sick. Then he tells his friends, take me to where Fatima Zahra was. So they go near the Jannatul Baqi area and he prays over there. And when he's praying, then he turns his face towards Allah and he starts to name all his friends one by one who have been deceased. Finally, when he reaches the name of his friend who passed away and whom he saw in the dream, he starts to weep and cry. And then he tells Allah, Ya Allah, for the love that you have of Muhammad, please forgive him. Please forgive him. He's cured.